This evening, we are very lucky to have with us Sandy Macaskill, who's the UK CEO of Barrys Bootcamp. And our conversation is going to mainly focus on what makes a healthy city or a healthy human being. So, Sandy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, or me.
And for those of us who've been living under a rock for the last 7 years, or in fact on a sofa eating biscuits, can you perhaps explain just a little bit what Barrys Bootcamp is and why you brought the concept to the UK?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, it's a fitness studio, and I've been doing it for 8 years, and I'm still really bad at describing what it actually is. It's effectively one room with treadmills and weights, and you do an hour-long class with loud music and an instructor telling you what to do, how to do it, and encouraging you through it. And it's with red lights, and it's basically like going to a nightclub for an hour, but working out. And it's meant to be fun and make the whole thing, like working out, actually enjoyable rather than a horrible experience.
And it's originally an American concept that launched in the very late 90s, is that right?
Founded in 98 in West Hollywood by Barry himself. Everyone always asks
there is
me,
a Barry.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a real life Barry.
How is Barry? Is he well? Is he okay?
I haven't spoken to Barry for a while, but he is. He's a great guy. He's a lovely guy who is an absolute pioneer because he basically did something that no one was doing. This, 1998, a gym was a gym where you turned up and you're on your own and never worked out with anyone else, and it was a very solitary experience. Well, almost like it was in 2013 when we opened here. But he basically put the whole concept together, and it's been copied around the world by countless others now. But yeah, he's still around.
So and you run the business with your brother.
Yeah.
So what made you, before you opened it, you were heavily involved in the world of health and fitness already?
No, I was a journalist, which is definitely not.
Shame on you.
Yeah. So long story short, my brother was a tennis coach, and I used to work for him as a tennis coach. And then I didn't really know what else to do with my life and got into sports journalism. So I did a few years at the Telegraph doing writing about football and tennis and stuff. He is married currently to, well, not currently, he's married. I should say.
His current one.
Is this being live streamed?
Yes.
His lovely wife, my sister-in-law. So they were going out at the time, is what I was trying to say. They weren't married at the time, but they are now, happily. She was an actress in LA. So she was living out there. James went out to visit, and she took him to Barry's. And he was obviously, what is this? I go to the gym, I'm a guy, I do everything on my own. Did an hour of Barry's, came back to London and said, Sandy, you got to try this thing out. It's called Barry's, and next time you're in LA, which I was never in LA, you got to try it out anyway. That wasn't how the conversation went, but something like that.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple of years, and he did come back from LA. I wasn't having a great time at my job. I had a new boss who was an idiot. I was like, I need to do something for myself. I think 20-something, 24, 25, I was like, if I get a new boss come in and when I'm 55 and he doesn't like me, then that's a bad situation to be in. I need to be my own boss. So James came back and said, look, Barry's, which I told you about a couple of years ago, I've spoken to the owners out there, and they're interested in doing something in London. So we flew to New York, where they were just opening a site in
I think
Chelsea. We still on?
The mic. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. In Chelsea, and I did 1 hour workout with Barry. He kind of sat on me and sort of whispered into my ear, and I was like, this is it. I've got to give up everything. I'll give up my life, sell the car, and just do this. Because
did you sell your brother's car as well?
Sold his car, sold his. It was all his money, really. I borrowed all his money. And so we did it. Honestly, it was an hour's experience where I had nothing like it. It was fun, and I liked working out. I love sport. I was saying earlier, I love sport. My whole life's been about sport, but working out, I'm not a gym bunny. So kind of, you'd have to drag me to the gym to do a workout, which I would then enjoy. But this would actually make me want to go. And I remember coming back to London and thinking, oh God, like, there's no Barrys there.
And there's absolutely nothing there at the time. There was you opened in 2013. There was nothing like it at the time.
Nothing like Barrys. There was some other things going on, like Pilates studios and yoga studios, but nothing like what Barrys was offering, and the way that Barrys did it. So very small. You know, if you went to a yoga studio or a Pilates studio, it was quite, 8 people or something, and we just made it like with the red lights and the loud music and the vibe, the nightclub thing. That was very different.
So can we talk about the word wellness, which is sort of very à la mode these days, and because actually Barrys is much more than fitness, isn't it? So I just wanted to know what that word means to you. In 50 words or less. No, joking.
What does it mean to me? So Barrys is more than fitness. I always use this thing. I say people come to Barrys for one thing, usually, and it may be six-pack or bigger arms, whatever, lose weight. But they stay for a completely different reason. And that is usually a mental reason. It makes them feel better. So we were talking before we came out about lockdown and working out, and a lot of people don't like working out, but the feeling you get after it is really hard to replicate. So for me, that's what wellness is. It's the feeling you get from doing something good for yourself. There you go. That's what wellness means to me.
Yeah. So but it's a thing that people seem to be taking on board a lot more these days. So where do you think that interest or desire is coming from to sort of consider our wellness in a more holistic manner?
I think I'm reluctant to
You can't speak for all people. Obviously.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to lay any sort of credit at the door of social media, because I have my issues with it. But I remember when I was at university going to the gym. I played sport, but going to the gym was a bit of a thing you do, and it's a bit. My friends didn't go to the gym, and they probably thought that I cared a bit too much about my appearance. I think that was the general. If you went to the gym, it was because you.
It's vanity.
Yeah, vanity. Thank you. But I think with the emergence of social media and the selfie and things, it's become a lot more okay to care about yourself. But alongside it has been this understanding that working out or going to the gym is not necessarily about for how you look. It's about how it makes you feel. I think that has been a big change in the time I've been in the industry from 2013 to now. If you say I go to the gym, it's not like, oh, okay, yeah, you care too much about that. There's a whole range of reasons why people might be going, and the mental side of it is key. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Where do you think we are? What stage do you think we are in this country with our health and fitness generally? Because we are way behind on Los Angeles, for example.
Yeah, well, I think lockdown was great. Actually, I think Joe Wicks, we were talking about earlier, like people like Joe Wicks have really been able to connect with families and people who weren't into fitness at all. So we're like Barrys, obviously, we're well known in a certain world, but then there's a huge in pockets of London we're known, or pockets of Manchester we're known, but and there's the rest of the UK probably haven't got a clue who or what we do, but have been able to over lockdown connect with brands like us that they would never have heard about normally. But because we're doing Instagram live stuff, or all of our competitors, but the other people doing the stuff that we do, we're doing the same thing. So it was suddenly the doors were open to a wider range. So, and Joe Wicks, I think, was brilliant, getting a lot of publicity for it. And I think as a country, I think being stuck at home for 3 months with nothing to do, I think people will have come out of it going, okay, this is maybe those who weren't into fitness beforehand are into wellness or doing something, whether it's a class like Barrys or whether it's a yoga thing or whatever it is, just going out for a walk, getting some fresh air. I think lockdown was actually quite helpful for that. I think that's something we could take from it. So a Barrys class in pre-COVID world is somewhere around 40 to 50 people. Is that about right, more or less? So I'm wondering if actually this is about community as well, because we've been talking I was here last week talking to Mary Porters, and we were talking an awful lot about community and what neighbourhood
means. And obviously in a place like this, you have the opportunity to build a community from scratch. Is it the sort of in it together mentality that, you know, the people that support each other, not just physical fitness, that's appealing, do you think?
Yeah, community. Yeah, I would have said before the whole thing yesterday with Boris and 6 people and making a community. I would have said
we were having a nice evening, Sandy.
I would have said that. No, it's a massive part of it. Obviously, at our classes, everyone's an individual person of one in a group, not of 6 people. No one comes to socialise at Barrys. It's definitely not a social thing. Everyone's kind
You're okay till Monday. You're fine till Monday.
Yeah.
You're all okay till Monday.
No, it is. It is a social. I'm just going to say it is a social thing. People come because it's a connection. You were laughing earlier. People come every day because they get to see people.
I'm not laughing. I'm just I'm embarrassed.
People come every day. Yeah, people come every day to see. There's a workout that happens, which is great. But it's a chance to see people, get out of the house, get out of the routine of just being on the sort of the treadmill of life. So you're on the treadmill of Barrys. And the kind of the feelings you get from a class, like people walk out of it, and I always say that people come in, maybe they don't say hello to anyone because we're all on that kind of, you know, it's like you get on the tube and your head's down, and especially in London, and then you walk out of a class, and again, I speak for Barrys, but you know, other studios and other workouts, with your head up, and you bye to people. It's just the difference you see in people when they come in to when they leave is really interesting, and I think adding that into your day is a really good thing because it just changes you. It goes from being on the tube, looking at the Kindle, you know, someone tries to talk to you like, why is this weirdo trying to talk to me? And then you come into a space like Barrys and immediately everyone's being sociable. It gives you that reason to be, oh, okay, I can talk to strangers. I can be a bit more outgoing.
So obviously we are in London, and you've grown up in London as well and live in London, as do I. And so would you say that, you know, we're in an urban city setting, we're all under sort of certain types of pressure, aren't we, with, I don't know, the pace of life and pollution and, I don't know, maybe less green spaces in certain places around the city, stress levels, diet, so on. Do you feel like as a nation we somewhat, or in urban settings, that we sort of slightly abuse our bodies and our mental state?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Especially now we've been out of the house. The first journey everyone did was straight to the pub. So I think we do, yeah, for sure. But I think having, again, I can only really speak for it in the last kind of 8 years and seen the sort of the transition. But, and your question earlier about where we are compared to, say, America, I think London especially is getting there. I think we're getting to a point where we are looking for more balance. You know, everywhere you look now, there's a juice bar and a salad shop and stuff. So I think that the difference between when we opened in 2013, there was nowhere healthy to eat, where now I think in an urban setting, there's a lot more variety and a lot more options for trying to stay healthy and not just pollute ourselves. But
so do you think, does that make you feel like as a society we are just our awareness of well-being has changed quite a lot in the last few years? Yeah,
and I think again social media helps with that, and the media help with it. I think it's become a lot more acceptable to make it part of your life, and you know, turning up at the school gates wearing you know, sweatpants and leggings and running shoes and all that stuff. I remember walking down the street and you're wearing tracksuit bottoms. It was like, oh, you know, people dressed up, looked smart, and I was always in sport.
I don't know where you were going to school.
I was always wearing sports clothes. I've never been smart, but you know, it was kind of a bit unusual. Whereas now everyone's wearing sports gear and trainers. It's part of our culture, and it's changed a lot because I notice it because I've always been scruffy and sports clothes. And the way that people treat me now is very... someone once said, I turned up to I won't say which landlord it was, but I turned up to their office building for a meeting. And at the reception, the receptionist said, are you delivering something? I was like, no.
Yes, information.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, I've got a meeting with your boss. But so yeah, getting used to turning up in a hoodie and some trainers would be really frowned upon. Or I think it's less so now. I think we're more accepting of it in the culture. I'm rambling.
No, not at all. And actually, my next question sort of really, it's the same thing that you've answered, but I'm just wondering whether we care more as a society. And I'm wondering if it's a generational thing. I mean, this is my generation. I mean, I'm in my 40s. And you know, so I look at millennials now who are all actually getting on a bit, the millennials, aren't they? But the sort of 20-something and 30-somethings who get up at 6 a.m. and go to exercise before they go to work. In my day, we were coming to work with hangovers and falling asleep in the loos at 11 o'clock. Actually, in the big building in Canary Wharf, because I interned on newspapers here. But so do you think it's sort of... Oh yeah, maybe I saw you there. But I just wonder whether, you know, that there's a generational shift that my lot are, you know, we're done, but it's all the younger people who are sort of integrating this into normal life, that it's part of their week. Yeah,
it is for sure. And again, London, I feel London is definitely there. Manchester's again kind of an interesting one where I've had the experience of setting up in London and then going to Manchester and having to try to educate and try to kind of deal with a very different demographic, I suppose, where people are very used to spending money on going out. Like everyone just goes out and spends tons of money on clothes and drinking and eating and having a good time. When we first opened in Manchester, it was more like, wait, what? You got to spend 20 quid on a class or 18 pounds on a class in Manchester? But then a year on, it has changed in the space of a year. Now it's not quite so... Well, everyone's still going out and loving going out and spending money on eating and drinking, but I feel like there's more willingness to spend money on fitness as well. So in a nutshell, I've seen that kind of transition in Manchester. It's definitely we've had that move in London from 2013 when hardly anyone came to Barrys. My first class had 3 people in it. But
got to start somewhere.
We've got to start somewhere. But then, now
you have waiting lists.
Now we have waiting lists. Yeah. So it has changed. Whether it's to do with age, I'm not sure. Actually, I don't know if it's an age thing. Although my 18-year-old, and he and his friends don't drink. Well, he's passionately against it.
Yeah. He's right.
Right, and despite me passionately trying to get him to drink wine with me, but. He won't, unless he's incredibly good at keeping it all a secret. But I genuinely buy into the whole thing that, the younger generations are looking at life slightly differently and fitness. If they've grown up with it, right? We kind of learned it as a we've had to learn to do it, but they're just growing up with it everyday life, seeing stuff on social media. They're seeing it again. The clothes we wear. They're growing up with trainers and stuff being a part of their life, whereas I grew up with. You had to wear smart shoes to go out.
Yeah.
You know, I have a number of nightclubs I've been turned away for wearing trainers. It's normal. It's part of everyday life now for a certain generation. I think it's not just small. It's a whole thing. It's the clothes. It's the being able to buy this stuff on the street, seeing people do it on social media, seeing your friends do it. I think it all adds together.
So the other thing I was thinking about is, you know, and particularly pertinent as we are sitting in Mill Harbour, and I guess planners have this opportunity to build from scratch, literally here, that somebody is finally recognising that we live in a certain that we live in a certain way where you don't necessarily want to go one place to work, another place to live, somewhere else to socialise, somewhere else to find entertainment, somewhere else, you know, to do your exercising, that actually we live these sort of nice jumbled mixed up lives where you might be working from home, for example, which is the theme of this year, but you pop out to do a class at lunchtime, or you pop to the local cafe to have your cup of coffee. And, you know, in an environment like this, they have realised that mixed use is really how it is. Are you seeing that as well, sort of the kind of areas that you are going into with Barrys and looking beyond Barrys, like the industry?
Finally. I never realised when we got into Barrys that the hardest thing would be finding space or finding landlords or finding, in fact, planning permission.
Hasn't this been a crusade of yours from the past?
Oh man, I just could never understand why what we do is a good thing, and we bring people into an area. So like some of my sites get 500, 600 people per day coming through the doors every day, and they're gonna spend money. They want to hang out, and they're the right kind of people. If let's say you own a complex or you're a planner and you want to bring people to the high street, we're what you want. Like, we're going to bring people to it. We're a destination. And yet the amount of times we've been told, no, we don't want a gym. We don't want a gym. I'm like, we're not a gym. We're everything but a gym. Like, stop thinking of us like a gym. No, we want a furniture store. The amount of times that furniture stores have got the space that we've, like, the landlords to start with weren't into it either. Bless them. In fact, I did I'll never stop telling you this one. I did a thing like this, with a big room with like all the biggest landlords in the country, all the biggest estates and everyone. And I got out a text from one of the agents who said, no, one of the people sitting in the room has said that you're going to actively devalue their property. Yeah, and I was like, here you have me now talking to you. Now you want to hear from me, but 3 years ago you said that our thing was going to actively devalue your property. How times have changed. So the landlords came around, but then planning they really dragged their feet. But thanks to coronavirus, the planning rules have changed, so we can do whatever we want.
So talking of which, the landscape has obviously changed really quite dramatically this year. It's been tough, and I'm assuming that it has been quite tough for you as a business because you probably had to shut up shop for a little while. But can you talk about a little about how you as a company responded to obviously the physical spaces themselves having to be closed? What avenues did you go down?
Yeah, so we decided before the government told us to close. It was happening in America. They were closing as well, and we thought, as a brand, I think we should be quite unified. So my brother and I were sitting on Monday morning in St. Paul's in our office, and we're like, you know what? They're closing in America. We should close here, and it's the hardest decision we've made, I think, since opening, but also a very simple and easy one. But what concerned me most of all was, like I said, we've said already, it's a very important part. Maybe it's a bit kitsch, but we have this thing saying our mission is to try and make Barrys the best part of someone's day. It sounds really cheesy, but it was kind of like the first. But
it's true.
Yeah. It was the first line on our business plan, weirdly enough. We wrote it in 2011. It was like, Barrys should be an experience, should be the best part of someone's day. So that's kind of like our mantra. And it did concern me that we were having like 2,000, 3,000 people coming in, and we're trying to make it the best part of their day. And then suddenly we're going, see you later. And I didn't want it to be like that. And so we had to pretty quickly go, right, how are we going to do this? How are we going to keep getting it out to people? Because, maybe it's not just a workout for someone. Maybe it is a chance for them to lose themselves for an hour and get away from, get away from the kids, get away from the whatever it is, the work,
or
the
being
problems,
on your own.
And then being on your own. And now suddenly we're all at home and we're either on your own or stuck with a crazy house, and it's like you need that moment of time for yourself. So we immediately started doing Instagram live classes, which were really cool. I started filming them in the studio, and then I was like, this doesn't make sense. I'm filming it in the studio when I've told everyone that we're closed. So we took it back to home, and we did that. We did every day from lockdown to the day we reopened. Someone told me, one of my team told me how many hours of live free Instagram classes we gave out. I can't remember what it is, annoyingly, but like a load. It was every day, like a load every day. And we did some stuff like a 12-hour non-stop one for charity. We did it a few times for charity. And then I did, so it was 2 months of that, 2 months of just free stuff, free Instagram classes. But the thing that I'm really proud of is Barrys Cares, which you mentioned earlier. But for those of you who don't know, it wasn't me at all. This is the cool thing, is my team, some of whom were on furlough, some of whom weren't on furlough, but they all were like sitting at home going, what are we supposed to do with ourselves? We're not doing our jobs. what can we do? And they were like, look, we've got loads of skills that we can give for our community. So we have actors, dancers, so many creative people who kind of work at Barrys part-time, and then, if they pick up a job touring the world with, Robbie Williams or in a theatre, Wicked, whatever it is. So they were all sitting home going, we can give something to our clients. So we created a framework called Barrys Cares, which was, we did meal plans, we did story time for kids for our clients. We did the workouts, obviously. We did a whole bunch of stuff that didn't even really relate to Barrys itself. It was just, what kind of problems are people having at home? Like keeping kids occupied or just anything. And do we have people that can help with that? Do they have skills that they can use, which isn't to do with fitness, but anything for our community? So that was something that we did across lockdown. And again, nothing to do with working out or Barrys, aside from the live Instagram classes, but it was like all of our clients have got us from when we opened the doors and hardly anyone turned up in 2013 to the day we closed when we were having like 3,000 people coming through the doors. Like, those people have got us to where we are. So it was time for us to go, right, okay, what can we do for you over the next couple of months?
So what did you learn about this community that you've built? I mean, did you anticipate how much everyone needed the connection?
Yeah, because I did. So I was like, if I feel this way, then I think, again, people are like me. It's nice to have something to do. Not a reason to get out of bed, although a lot of people would watching my Instagram class typing and going, I'm just watching you having a coffee in bed. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, if you get something from it, great. But so I kind of got a sense of it. But funny enough, actually, when we first opened Barrys in real life, someone came up to me after the second week and said, this place has changed my life.
As in reopened this year?
No, in real,
in the beginning?
In 2013,
I see, okay.
February, someone came up to me and said, this place has changed my life. I was like, typical, like, I was like, really? Really? Like, that's not why we set Barrys up. It wasn't like to change lives. It was just because it was a really good workout and I loved it and I thought people would like it. But then people started saying that. I was like, wow, this actually has a major impact on people and it's important. So fast forward again and coming out of lockdown, people were coming up to us and saying, the stuff, the classes or whatever in lockdown has saved people's lives. It was weird. And it's again not something I don't set out to do that because I think that's,
it feels like too grand a gesture.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. We're just doing workouts, but it's really cool. I'm very proud of the fact that proud for my team, mainly, not really for me, but proud for my team that they can be associated with something that people really. It made a difference in people's lives over lockdown, and I'm very proud of my team for that.
So does that brings us sort of full circle back to the fact that actually well-being is the whole thing. It's holistic. It's so much about mental health, and that maybe the community that you get from Barrys studio is precisely that.
So again, the lockdown was a great kind of test case for this because obviously the first 2 months was just Instagram Live, really, in terms of just a workout, in terms of the if you put Barrys Cares to one side as a kind of a service that we were offering, but the product we have is a workout. And the first 2 months was Instagram Live, and our communication with them was I was being filmed, or Anya was being filmed, or our instructors were being filmed, and then people could type in on the chat on the live thing. So there's some element of communication and community, but that there's 1,000 people, 2,000 people watching it, and you're one of those people, so you get that kind of like sense of I'm doing something with a group of people that I can't see, but I'm following this guy on Instagram, and you feel that sense of connection, right? After 2 months, we started doing classes on Zoom, so I could suddenly start seeing my clients. For me, that was really emotional. I did not think I would get emotional. I'm not an emotional guy. And I had a proper lump in my throat. I've never lost my voice teaching class in 7 years. I almost lost my voice because I was like, that first hour class where I was teaching, I started like putting way more effort and energy into my voice than I would normally do. And I had a lump in my throat because I suddenly saw people. And that was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I needed to even just see people. And I'm very lucky. I have a a pretty crazy house. During lockdown, I was living with my wife, my 2-year-old, my 18-year-old. My brother lives with me, not the one that I have Barrys with, a different one. And then and my wife's cousin lives with us as well. So we had a pretty a full house. So it wasn't like I wasn't seeing anyone, but even when I saw other people, got emotional. And then for people who were living on their own, that was really important. Suddenly having other people in your house that you could share that with. And then when we reopened the doors in real life and then got to see people in real life was another step up again. I was like, wow, I, again, didn't realize how important it is to be in a room with people. And the amount of people crying was...
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. So the end of the class...
From pain or from joy of being...
Yeah. I don't ask that, no. No, I think it was from... it's not uncommon, actually, fun enough, for if you go in there during the cool down. So we did a quick stretch at the end and sort of put on a soft piece of music and just this all a bit, a couple of minutes just to reset. And it's not uncommon for people's emotions to come out at that point because it's the sort of the rush or whatever.
It's chemical.
But yeah, and but more than normal, I think, was the amount of emotion that was coming out, which kind of shocked me, but it took me by a bit of surprise.
So how has it been since apart from the tears, how has it been since you reopened? When did you reopen and what's the reaction been like?
I think we opened sort of end of July. Was it end of July?
So obviously you can't work at capacity.
No, so we're 50%. We could be more, but we just took the decision to just go halve it. No one has to share anything. It's just you get your own treadmill, you get your own bench, you get your own weights. You're spaced out. And it's been great. It's not a viable business plan at 50%, unfortunately, for a huge amount of time. So the sooner we can start building numbers, the better. But we are really busy for the 50%.
Are you keeping the Zoom classes going at the same time?
So we've still got that because that opened us up to a wide audience. So we were just, if you live near us in London or you work near us in London and you come, some people travel in, like we do have stories of people coming from like Paris and stuff to come to our classes, which is kind of cool. So people do come from far and wide to come, but majority obviously is near. But and then in Manchester. But then with the Instagram stuff and the Zoom, people have been able to do it from Leeds and Huddersfield and Scotland and wherever. And it felt weird to us if we were like, okay, yeah, cool, now we're opening our studios.
Yeah.
See you later. So we've kept those going for those who can't get into the studio or who don't want to come in yet because they feel unsafe or whether they're working from home still or for whatever reason. We just thought, these need to carry on. I think the doors are now open. That's here to stay. But for me, the really encouraging thing is having to listen for 3 months or 4 months in lockdown about how it's all about online working out. No one's ever going to come back to gyms. I was like, I didn't believe that personally. I was saying that the whole time. But it's very encouraging for me that when we were able to reopen, it wasn't like, nah, we're okay, we're going to stay at home and work out.
I think people need to be together. Exactly.
So the online stuff, it provided the connection, provided the community to a certain extent because we were all at home. So it was kind of, it was important. But the moment you actually could get out, there's nothing like the human connection or being in a room full of people. Not full, a room, 50% spatially organised and all that stuff.
And you spray everything. You were telling me before, it's actually, you're finding the cleanliness very easy because you were doing it anyway.
It's the cleanest place in London, for sure.
Yeah. Gets
deep clean 11 times a day. It was being anyway, but, we got Ghostbuster sprays and stuff. Honestly, it's I genuinely, I'm not saying this, I genuinely think it's probably the cleanest place you can be because it's been clean the entire time. But yeah, there's nothing that you can't replicate that experience in your bedroom or in your front room. You can get as close as you can to it, but there's nothing like being with people. So I think, if we're talking about community and sharing space and what fitness or wellness does, it gives you that feeling that is very difficult to replicate.
Do you feel like fitness is part of wellness? It's do you think they're separate things, or it's all part of one thing?
I don't really know. Wellness to me, wellness seems to me to be a sort of a catch-all for the whole
physical and mental.
Yeah, the whole thing, and fitness is a part of that.
Let me ask you about motivation or lack thereof, and I'm sure you could write volumes on the restorative power of exercise. So do you feel like we are learning to take time for ourselves, that exercise stops being this sort of luxury that's separate to your daily life, that it is actually just part of your normal list of essentials?
Yeah.
Should it be?
It should be, and I think it is. I think, but again, so that's a broad generalization. I think, again, more people are, over 8 years, the journey, definitely more people are doing that now than they used to be. Although at the time, even let's say 8 years ago, I was definitely pushing this message when we first opened, that fitness had become something that was, again, on the back, we wrote the business plan on the back of the financial crisis, and it was still not a great shape back in 2011. And I was like, fitness is one of the things that the last things you're going to cut. So mobile phone and your fitness are things that people are prepared to invest in. And I think now, 2020, I think that's even more the case. I hope, anyway. I hope that's the case. And again, back then, I was telling the story that you just find better ways to do it. So rather than pay a monthly membership fee for something you don't even use, that's not a sensible way to spend your money if you need to look after your finances. But investing in something which you actually get results from, that's a pretty good way of doing it.
And you actually go
and do. So we were, if you remember, hands up for who was a member of a gym and never actually went, or carried on paying the money but never go once a year or whatever. So yeah, people didn't want to cut that from their life but find a better way of investing. I think that is more the case now than it was back then. And again, not just for being fit. I think it's because it provides something a lot more, provides a place to go, to see friends, to be with people, to get a bit of time for yourself. I think especially in today's world, we're on Instagram, we're on social media, Twitter, we're super connected. We've got news at the touch of our finger. We know everything that's going on, 24-hour news, everything, and yet we're pretty disconnected as a society, I think, despite the fact we are super connected technologically wise. So I think it provides a place to connect with people, and just get an hour away from the phone as well. Like,
you can't look at your phone during your workout.
People try.
Really?
Yeah. Like, people go on the treadmill, phone out. I'm like, that's how addicted and connected we are to this stuff. It's like, put your phone away. You're on a moving machine. You're on a treadmill. Like, it's not a good idea. Give yourself time. And we have really powerful people, like people who have really high-powered jobs who, like, probably get 1,000 emails and calls and whatever, but can take an hour out and leave their phone outside the room. So I'm always like, if they can do it, then we can all do it. We can take an hour for ourselves. I think it's so important. I think the people that come to Barrys, I think, recognize that. And I use them as an example. I'm like, we should all learn from the CEOs who are coming in and get it. They lead busy lives. And if they can find out a way to get it in as well, then we can.
It's probably the secret of their success, isn't it? To clear a space to do that.
Yeah, I had a theory actually at one point that like they were all coming in at 6 a.m. Like the really like powerful people, like really well-known people, were like coming at 6 a.m. to do like a workout. I was like, God, that's annoying because I'm not a morning person at all. It's like maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's what I need to do.
It is the secret, isn't it?
But then over the years, I've actually seen the same people. Now they don't come at 6 a.m. They come at like sort of different times, and I'm like, okay, good. I don't need to get up really early to be successful.
You probably get up pretty early. You have a small child, which means you have no choice. But
I have a lovely wife who somehow managed to convince her that
your sleep is more important. Anyway, let's not go down that road.
No, don't really.
Let's not go down.
No,
that road.
I get up. I do my fair share.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Absolutely.
So before we finish, I'd love to. I've got another question for you, but just to say, I'm going to see if anyone else have questions for Sandy because we have him here. So please have a thought. But my final question, Sandy, for now, and I'm asking for a friend, is for those friends who don't exercise, how do you help people to get started? Asking for a friend.
How do I personally tell them, or how would you tell your friend?
How would you? Or what would you advise me to tell my friend who sits next to me on the sofa?
Yeah, what she should do. Just start. I think everyone, again, I honestly have heard this 15 times a day for 8 years that I need to get fit to go to Barrys. My own cousins, I come from a very sporty family, really sporty, and even my cousins just don't come because they're like, oh, I'm not fit enough to go to Barrys. I'm like, you play sport every day, you're really fit, but no, I need to be Barrys fit. It's not just start, just find something that you enjoy. Don't be nervous about it. People come really terrified, like to Barrys. Like they'll come and say, "It's my first time. I'm petrified." I'm like, "What? Like it's fun. Don't be nervous. Like if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. No one's not gonna. We're not forcing you to do anything." But maybe Barrys isn't for you. Maybe something. Go for a walk. Go for a jog. Try something out. Experience something. And maybe you won't like it at the time, but you just wait 15 minutes and then you'll get that kind of like buzz afterwards. I think. I think it's very important to find something that you do enjoy, though.